The Galactic Education Exchange hadn't seen anything quite like her. She arrived without fanfare, escorted by silent armored officers, her file sealed under Earth's top-level diplomatic security protocols. No greetings. No explanation. Just a name, Kale. No species identifier was needed. Everyone knew, Deathworlder. A planet so infamous it needed no introduction. In the codified threat rankings of the Galactic Concord, Earth was Tier 5A, unreasonably lethal. Its ecosystem bred survivors, not citizens. Its apex species, humans, were considered irrationally aggressive, biologically overclocked, and psychologically volatile. They weren't invited to galactic society, they forced their way in. And when they did participate, it was never without consequence. She said nothing her first week. She just sat in the back, silent, wearing matte black synth leather, eyes unreadable. One gray, one metallic green. The other students gave her a wide berth. Her frame was lean, but her posture was too straight, too still, predatory. She never flinched. Never blinked too long. Never reacted. Rumors spread like plasma fire. One claimed she was a military experiment, designed to mimic a human child. Another said she had killed 3 instructors at her last academy. A few believed she wasn't even real, a projection or an AI crafted by Earth's enigmatic defense corps. Whatever she wasn't normal. Everyone agreed on that. Instructors tried to engage her at first. Questions about galactic ethics, interstellar law, historical theory. She only tilted her head, never speaking, never writing. One brave professor assigned her a group project on xenopsychological conflict theory. Her group requested reassignment within minutes. She simply stared at them, silent. After that, no one tried again. Then came the simulation exercise. A full-class virtual warfare drill designed to test logic under pressure. Kale's station was activated, and the instructor, a burly Himari with 3 doctoral clusters in conflict analysis, invited her to demonstrate. She declined with a small, disarming smile. The Himari laughed. "What's the matter, Earthling? Don't know how to fight if it isn't real." Pause. She stood, walked to the podium, said nothing, then turned to face the class. One of the mockers, Zir, a Caltraxi, met her eyes for less than 3 seconds. That was all it took. He stumbled back, gasping for air, pupils dilated, heart rate spiking. A medical alert triggered. He collapsed. No contact. No aggression. Just a look. And something in that look crushed him. After that, no one called her by name. She was the silent death. She walked the halls like a ghost with weight. Even AI surveillance systems flagged her pathing as predatory. Students avoided her, whispered when she passed, never loud enough for her to hear. She still never spoke. And still no one knew why she was there. Was she a test? A warning? Or a weapon that hadn't been triggered yet? The galaxy had spent generations learning to measure threats. But not everything could be measured. And sometimes the quietest ones were simply waiting. The piece that held the stars together was unraveling. The Vrax Dominion, long silent behind its fortified borders, began seizing neutral territories without warning. Their ships blackened skies, their troops advanced with impunity, and entire systems surrendered without resistance. The Galactic Academy, positioned in a once safe sector, found itself within striking distance. Whispers of evacuation turned into announcements. Shuttles departed daily. Still Kale remained. Students buzzed with panic. Himari ambassadors urged withdrawal. Caltraxi analysts declared the system a lost cause. Even the stoic Krawl began packing their belongings. But Earth's representatives sat in the lecture halls, alone, back straight, hands folded. No transport arrived for her. No communication was received. She didn't seem concerned. In one interstellar diplomacy class, the conversation turned hostile. A student from Thelos argued passionately for surrender. "Survival is better than dignity," he declared. A militarist from Draven spat back that capitulation was cowardice. The room split into factions, philosophies clashing louder than ever before. Kale, as always, said nothing. She stared through the window at the stars, expression unreadable. Then, during a planetary systems lecture, it happened. A high-frequency chime overrode all class interfaces. The galactic broadcast tone followed. "Attention. Vrax Dominion fleet has entered the Alvin system. Defensive systems have failed. Ground forces en route. All students are to shelter in place or evacuate immediately." Panic ignited. One student screamed. Another fainted. Instructors lost all control, shouting over each other, trying to coordinate. The mainframe went dark. Automated defense protocols didn't engage. They were already breached. The Vrax hadn't come to negotiate. They came to occupy. The evacuation systems jammed. Too many trying to flee at once. The headmaster tried to contact the Vrax flagship, offering terms of surrender. There was no reply. Not even a refusal. The Dominion didn't acknowledge their existence. Kale stood. The room fell silent. She walked to the front without urgency. Students instinctively moved aside. Even those who hated her made space. One braver soul, a young Thrin with golden skin and trembling fingers, asked, "Where are you going?" Kale didn't look at her. But she replied, voice quiet, firm and terrifying in its calm. "They made it my problem." She tapped her wrist console. A soundless pulse emitted through the room. The air shimmered around her, cloaking her in something. Hard light? Adaptive armor? No one knew. Her file had offered no tactical specs. She wasn't just a student. A holographic ID flickered briefly in the air. Lieutenant Kale Ionia, a Human Terran Defense Corps active deployment clearance. Alpha Black. Not a student. Not here to learn. She had been watching. Her boots clicked once against the metal floor as she turned and walked toward the Academy's outer gates. Outside, the sky was burning. Vrax ships descended like metal vultures. The Dominion thought they were invading a school. But they had just entered a cage with something far more dangerous than they understood. And Kale Ionia was no longer silent. The first Vrax drop pod landed with seismic force, cracking the paved courtyard. Soldiers spilled out in gleaming black armor, exoskeletons humming with overdrive modules. They were veterans, battle-tested, ruthless, certain of victory. Scouting drones zipped overhead, scanning for resistance. They found none. No defenses. No armed personnel. Just a deserted academy complex. The commander laughed. Then she walked into view. Alone. No backup. No fear. No armor visible. Just a slim, upright figure with gloved hands and unreadable eyes. The Vrax aimed weapons instinctively. She didn't flinch. One of them barked a command ordering her to kneel. She didn't move. He stepped forward to enforce it. She threw something small and gray. It landed silently between them, then erupted in a flash of localized EMP, frying weapons, comms, and visor HUDs in an instant. Screams echoed as their systems crashed. By the time their visors rebooted, she was gone. Then the first soldier dropped, neck twisted, unconscious. Another staggered back, his suit's hydraulics jammed, falling like dead weight. No one saw how she moved. She was just there and then they weren't. Panic rippled. The Vrax were trained for open combat, not assassination-level precision. They regrouped, spread out, scanned every sector. It didn't help. She struck from shadows, above, below, using the terrain like a weapon. Vents, stairwells, blind corners. She fought like someone who had already mapped the entire campus 1,000 times. One officer screamed into his reconnected comms, "There's more than one. It's a trap." But there was no response. Only Kale's voice. "You brought an army to occupy children. Mistake 1. Silence. You didn't ask who was already here. Mistake 2. Then the Vrax commander roared, "Find her and kill her." The moment he gave the order, his helmet exploded. She'd already planted a charge. And she was behind him. A knife whispered from her boot, flashing across his throat. No theatrics. No speech. Just termination. Then she vanished again. By now, the Vrax were abandoning formations, firing at shadows at each other. She disrupted their comms, rerouted signals, made phantom audio lures to draw them into traps. They saw movement, pursued, and found nothing but stun mines and electromagnetic disablers. Footage later reviewed by analysts showed her taking down 13 soldiers with a sharpened pen, 5 more with repurposed piping, and disabling a gunship by rerouting its AI to self-terminate. She didn't use force unnecessarily. She didn't overkill. She dismantled them. At one point, the last Vrax unit huddled together in a sealed atrium, shaking, muttering in their native tongue. "It's not human," one whispered. "It's a myth. Earth lied about what they are." Hours later, Terran reinforcements arrived, summoned by Kale's beacon. They found the Vrax disarmed, kneeling, weapons piled at their feet, terrified and compliant. Kale sat calmly on a crate, sipping a hydration pack, gaze distant. "I was just here to learn," she said without emotion. "But you interrupted my class." News of the incident spread faster than any official report. Across the Galactic net, recordings, some smuggled, others leaked, began circulating. Blurry footage of a single human, moving like a ghost, taking down an elite Vrax unit. The footage showed no bloodlust, no madness, only calculated precision. Kale didn't speak again on camera. She didn't have to. Her actions had already rewritten the narrative. The Galactic Concord held an emergency summit. Not to condemn the Vrax invasion, that was expected, but to discuss her. Delegates debated if Earth had violated neutrality agreements by embedding military personnel in an educational facility. Earth's ambassador simply shrugged. She was a student. Your mistake was assuming that meant harmless. The Vrax denied nothing. Their envoy, pale and visibly shaken, issued a formal ceasefire request and withdrew forces from all contested sectors. They cited unforeseen variables. Everyone knew what they meant. Other Deathworld species, long silent, took notice. The Krail sent envoys to Earth the next cycle. The Valari revised their diplomatic training protocols to include psychological modeling of Terran behavior. The entire galactic understanding of humans shifted. They weren't just resilient. They weren't just aggressive. They were precise and patient. At the academy, Kale returned to class the next day. She entered quietly just as before. Sat in her usual seat. Opened a datapad. No one spoke. Even the instructors didn't acknowledge her arrival. Some couldn't meet her gaze. Others stared with a reverence just short of fear. The silence wasn't about intimidation. It was about realization. They had underestimated her. Not her strength, her restraint. For weeks she had listened, watched, calculated. She had endured taunts, isolation, even suspicion. Not because she was weak but because she had the strength not to respond, until the time came. That restraint terrified them more than any violence. Later, a formal commendation was issued by the Concord for preventing further escalation and loss of life. Kale never collected it. She didn't speak at the assembly held in her honor. She stood on the stage, nodded once, and walked away before the anthem played. Some speculated she was pulled from the academy afterward, reassigned to special ops. Others believed she remained, quietly observing until the next threat emerged. Her file was never declassified. But her presence changed everything. No longer were Deathworlders seen as blunt instruments or unpredictable savages. They were now understood to be deliberate, strategic, and terrifyingly composed. The myth of the reckless human gave way to something colder, the operator who waits. And in that transformation, the galaxy learned something it should have already known. Silence doesn't mean weakness. It means you're still alive to hear the warning. And when a Deathworlder speaks, you're already too late.